This is going to be a bit of a dual video. We're going to talk a little bit about the Chicago guy, but mostly about the Vancouver guy. And the reason we're bringing up the first overall pick from the 2023 draft, Conor Bedard, is because I was kind of thinking, do I want to make a video about the guy not having signed a contract this deep into the offseason? But then, on his birthday, July 17th, so just a few days ago, he had finally signed his ELC with the Chicago Blackhawks. 3 years, whatever the number is, and with that signing, with the pen to the dotted line, all the Vancouver fans in the Lower Mainland's hearts broke collectively because we all finally realized, yeah, there was no way this guy was going to pull a Lindros, isn't there? But either way, Conor Bedard is still going out there and doing things in the Vancouver scene. He was suiting up for the Good Guys Inline Hockey Club in a North Van tournament. You could actually watch those games live on YouTube. Conor Bedard is there with guys like Kent Johnson. You've got some other younger players that are from the area. Andrew Crystal is there as well. So it was interesting to see Conor Bedard get on the score sheet in a roller hockey tournament. But aside from that, you had yourselves other stints of Conor Bedard sort of being in the public eye. Now, that's not necessarily what's happening directly, but he's practicing in areas where people from the public are able to watch, and as a result, you saw yourselves this post made on the R Canucks sub from earlier this week saying this: I saw Vasily PODKOLZIN training with Conor Bedard at 8 rinks today. Now, 8 rinks, I think everybody kind of knows. It's in Burnaby, it's near the lake, and it's a pretty well-known hockey facility for players to practice at. And you had yourselves the image of Conor Bedard playing with Pug Colson too. This user even uploaded a few video clips on Twitter of Conor Bedard coming in and sniping a puck on net, which of course is interesting to Blackhawks fans because this is their first overall guy. Either way though, all Conor Bedard talk aside, Vasily PODKOLZIN is the guy that I wanted to mostly focus on in this video today. And part of the reason is because seeing this guy stick around in Vancouver firstly, that's awesome. He's got a child now, so big congrats to the PODKOLZINs and their newest member of the family. But he is not going back home. He's sticking around here in Vancouver. He's doing the thing, he's doing the drills, he's doing the workouts. And you could say, oh, it's the status of Russia right now, that's why a lot of the Russian players are not going home. That's fair, but it doesn't change the fact that he actually still is just here, plain and simple. Also with PODKOLZIN though, I didn't want to just make an entire video talking about how he's in 8 rinks practicing with Conor Bedard. I also wanted to go over some comments made by head coach Rick Tocchet regarding PODKOLZIN's journey and where he's got to go next. To help us out, we're going over onto Daniel Wagner's article on VancouverisAwesome.com from July 11th, so last week. Podsy's just gotta let it hang. Tocchet wants PODKOLZIN to be more reckless. The subheadline reads this: it's time for the Canucks forward to take a significant step forward as he prepares for his third NHL season. Now, we had already talked a few videos ago when it comes to the Canucks and their trade update that Vasily PODKOLZIN is a guy that Rick Tocchet is already penciling in to this Vancouver Canucks lineup next season. Tocchet had the interview on Sportsnet 650, and he said himself that he feels that PODKOLZIN, Höglander, these guys have more to give. It's time for them to break out. And with that in mind, it fills out the Canucks forward lines for next season, at least when it comes to the wingers, because as we have said, there are already 8 names on the winger positions that fill out the rest of that lineup. Besser, Garland, Kuzmenko, PODKOLZIN, Höglander, Beauvillier, Mikheyev, and Pearson. That's 8 names, that's 4 full lines worth of wingers. Of course, with centers, it's a little bit different. You've got Miller, you've got Petey, you've got other players rotating in and around there, Teddy Bluger, and then the final spot. But when it comes to Rick Tocchet already saying in the media that he feels that PODKOLZIN and Höglander have more to give, it indicates that he has that idea that they're going to be a part of the team. And when it comes to what he had said about these players, this is the comment that he made to open up everything. PODKOLZIN's just got to let it hang, said Rick Tocchet to Halford and Bruff on Sportsnet 650. He's just got to play almost a little reckless. Now, the way it's phrased here, yeah, PODKOLZIN's got to let it hang. That sounds very dirty. But we're going to continue on as if that doesn't mean anything, and I'm not making any implications here. I think when PODKOLZIN gets in trouble, he receives the puck and then he makes his decision, said Tocchet. It seems like he's getting it, and he just wants to, make that safe play. Whether it's the chip up the boards when nobody's on you, that's the time to make a play or move your feet. Rick Tocchet said that some of that comes with experience and that he believes PODKOLZIN learned a lot last year. The winger earned praise towards the end of last season for his north-south game, with Tocchet calling him a moose and a bull at times, but he was far too inconsistent. Wagner here on Vancouver is Awesome then writes about how winger spots are limited because there are so many wingers that are actually quality NHL players, and Podkolzin is going to have to fight for ice time, and that's definitely a fair concern. We're going to have to see how Podkolzin handles that sort of role next year. Tocchet also said this regarding Podkolzin and his fitness level. I saw him walking around the development camp, and he looks shredded. He looks lean. Podkolzin is the type of guy, you tell him, make sure you're in shape, and he's going to work out every single day. I told him to back off and take a vacation, noting that Podkolzin's wife just gave birth to their first child. Just enjoy your baby and stuff, don't get too crazy. But that's the one thing I love about him, is that he does work hard. Now, link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read the rest of the article here from Wagner. He does some pretty good analysis on the Podkolzin situation. But for Vasily Podkolzin just in general, last season he had 7 points in 39 NHL games played and 18 points in 28 AHL games played. Not the best season out of a guy who was drafted in the first round top 10, and not even a great step up from what he had accomplished the year before. 26 points in 79 NHL games played this season. He wasn't able to stay in the National Hockey League the whole time. But for Podkolzin just in general, the skill set that you have here has always been so unique that I really appreciate Rick Tocchet going out there and laying it down that, yeah, what this guy needs to do more of is be that wrecking ball, be that destroyer, be reckless out there. Because when Podkolzin was drafted in 2018-19, that was the scouting report about this guy. Scouting labeled him, I think it was the Lion? Craig Button labeled this guy as a bulldog. Vasily Podkolzin in his draft year was absolutely relentless. On the puck, on opponents, on the boards, in the defensive zone, he was blocking shots. His ability to just go and not stop was unmatched. He wasn't the fastest guy in the draft, but he was pretty high up there, and he was one of the hardest working in the draft period as well, up there with guys like Turcotte and Peyton Krebs. It reflected really well in international tournaments, as in that Hlinka Gretzky that season, he had himself 11 points in 5 games. That was when he was sniping it left, right, and center as the captain of the U18 team. He was phenomenal at that showcase. But it's been a few years, and he's not had that same level of success replicated in any sort of higher level of play. Not to say that his recklessness isn't there anymore. We know that from his work ethic, when he does go on the forecheck and when he does hunt down the puck in the offensive zone behind the goal line, he still has the fur peeking behind his ears. The lion is still there. He's just not as reckless as he has been before. You could debate he's a little bit tentative compared to before. We even made a video back in 2019 talking about Podkolzin and his killer instinct, and that was a video that I was pretty proud of to make because I was in Japan at the time, and I didn't have any time to actually sit down and record the video properly, so the fact that we got it done beforehand was pretty good for me personally. Yeah, anecdotes out of the way here. But for Podkolzin, if this guy is able to max out to the best of his potential, which I still believe is maybe 10-15% attainable, you're looking at a guy who could maybe get upwards of 60-70 points as just an absolute wrecking ball, a machine. Let's think of Brady Tkachuk, but a little bit smaller, maybe a bit less trash talky, maybe not as hard of a fighter as well, but in terms of the physicality and the aggression, he's all up in there in your grill, and he's gonna make your life miserable. That's what Podkolzin was supposed to be in his prime, and as Rick Tocchet is saying that maybe it's the safe play that's getting a little bit more prioritized here. He's tripping the puck up the boards rather than taking it himself like he did at the Hlinka Gretzky years ago. These are habits that you're going to have to work out of, but at the end of the day, it doesn't indicate the level of skill that you have. I get it, hockey sense and IQ is a skill in and of itself, but when it came to the raw puck handling, shooting ability that Podkolzin possessed years ago, that stuff just doesn't go away. It's not like Podkolzin sucks at shooting. It's just that he's not deciding to shoot as much as he had, let's say, in that Hlinka Gretzky tournament. It's easy to say, oh yeah, but he's playing against other kids, now he's playing in the NHL. I get it, it's totally different. It's just the tendencies, It's not really the same mold of a player you're watching today than you had seen back in 2019. And so for me, if the Canucks are able to get that Podkolzin out of him in 2023-2024, that is absolutely prime. And I know we went from Conor Bedard to talking about Podkolzin in this video, but gosh darn it, I wanted to go out there and nail that point home. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Vasily Podkolzin training in Vancouver, the progression he's got to go under, what Rick Tocchet said about Podkolzin and his recklessness, and how you feel about his progression from 2019 to 2023. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.